Welcome, mentors, to the Know Your Nine presentation. I'm excited to have you here with us for our first ever virtual MVP Leadership Summit. I commend you all for taking the time out of your day to sit through, learn, and then in the future, apply this within your own school communities. So a bit about this presentation. Many of you have probably heard of the federal policy of Title IX, and some of you might even have brief tidbits of how it protects you. But what we sought to do with this presentation was to create an opportunity for you to fully understand how, as high school students, are protected by the federal policy Title IX. And we're really going to go into that today together. We only have a brief 15 minutes together, and this presentation was designed to be much longer than that. And so with the time that we have together, we're going to be going super quickly through the main concept of what is Title IX, and then going through 9 key categories in which it protects you as students. I highly encourage you to use this resource though. We have a handout and you'll have access to a video of this, including the slide deck, to after this presentation, engage with this material again to make sure that it sticks with you. A quick tidbit about myself. The reason I'm in front of you all today presenting, I'm a senior at the University of Northern Iowa. I've been involved with MVP for the past 3 years, and in those 3 years, I've gotten the opportunity to meet some outstanding mentors such as yourself and work alongside them. And I'm a past intern for the Center for Violence Prevention, and I've gotten the chance to work alongside the fine folks such as Dr. Fleming and Dr. Heisterkamp. So the main concept for today, what will we be discussing? One, we're going to be going through what is Title IX, just the bare bones, what it is. Then we'll be going through how Title IX protects students, the 9 key categories that you all should know. There will be a few scenarios. Those will be attached on a handout that Dr. Heisterkamp will be getting out to all of you. And then finally, a few additional resources. As you move forward as mentors within your own schools and communities, some resources that could be of assistance to you all. So what is Title IX? That's the $1 million question. Well, Title IX is a part of the Educational Amendments of 1972. I won't bore you by reading through the policy, although it is pretty important. The key concept, though, from this policy is that no person that is a part of an institution or an organization receiving federal financial assistance can be discriminated by on the basis of sex. So what does this mean for you as a high school student? So basically, if you're attending a high school and it's receiving federal financial assistance, which as if you're attending a public school, that's you, then they need to designate at least one employee to coordinate their efforts to comply with Title IX. So by complying with Title IX, there's no discrimination or gender violence or gender bias, excuse me. And then a part of that is they cannot exclude, separate, or deny benefits to students, or just treat them differently on the basis of sex. So that was the 30,000-foot view of what Title IX is. When it comes to life on a day-to-day basis and how it protects you, falls into these 9 categories. Here are the first 5 going through. We'll talk about sports participation, sexual harassment and sexual violence. So I will give a quick trigger warning. If that is an uncomfortable topic for any of you, feel free to hop off or step back from the video if you need to take care of yourself. And school activities and involvement. And then the final 4, pregnant and parenting, LGBTQ+, Title IX coordinators, and retaliation against reporters. So diving into this, the first one key way that Title IX protects students such as yourself is sports participation. So it has a requirement that, say that you're in a public school, that it's going to provide an opportunity for the underrepresented gender in that sport to have an equal opportunity to participate in that athletic activity. So for example, if the school is going to provide baseball, as we see, we've got a baseball photo here, they're going to provide a softball opportunity for the females. If there's a men's rugby team, a women's rugby team as well. And there are 3 key ways that schools can really demonstrate their compliance in this area. One is substantial proportionality, so creating these opportunities for equal opportunity that is proportionate to the amount of enrollment at the school. So how many girls, how many boys, and so on and so forth. History and continuing practice. So how are they continuing to be responsive to the history of interests and abilities within that enrollment of students. And then the third one is full and effective accommodation, right? So those that are enrolled in some of these sports, these extracurricular activities, they are being fully accommodated through the sport that they are a part of. And that perfectly segues into the second key way that Title IX protects students of sports benefits and opportunities. So it's not just enough to have the same sport is provided. They have to ensure that they are meeting these key areas. And I've created the acronym PLAIN FAIR that sums up these 11 points here. So in essence, they're really creating gender equity here, where it has to go deeper than just everybody has access to it. So that what this looks like is like travel to events and competition, locker rooms, if they're available for one sport, having that available for the others, and equipment and so on and so forth, so that the entire experience is fair for everybody involved. The third key way is sexual harassment and sexual violence. So Title IX, it requires schools to implement strategies to safeguard students such as yourself, and really requires them to enact some substantial sexual harassment policies, reporting mechanisms, and then an investigative procedure. So say that there's an instance of sexual harassment, your school, university is going to have some procedure in place, not only to report it, but then to follow up with an investigation into that. And I know, as you all are mentors, many of you probably have the definition of sexual assault, but I wanted to include it in here as it's defined by the federal Title IX regulations. So this is the lens and viewpoint in which Title IX looks at the issue and the topic of sexual harassment. There's a scenario, no worries, we won't discuss this now, it'll be on the handout. And then the fourth one, hazing, bullying, and cyberbullying. So Title IX is going to protect students from these forms of harassment in an educational setting. And when, if that hazing or bullying is also done with acts of a sexual nature, then that by that point too, it falls under sexual harassment. So in regards though, if there are words or action of a sexual nature, though in hazing or bullying, Title IX is going to fall into that instance. And then the fifth one is school activities. So I started off by describing sports, where if a school is going to provide an opportunity for one, providing it for all, but this can be said for any type of extracurricular school activity as well. So no discrimination for STEM offerings, or say that there is a band or a choir, or if there is a different theater, there's going to be equal opportunity for all, and there cannot be any discrimination based off of gender or sex for any students there. The sixth one is pregnant and parenting students. So Title IX is actually going to protect students if they're pregnant or parenting, and that falls for both boys and girls. And the way it protects these students is that it prevents them from applying any sort of rule or policy that treats those students differently. So they can't be discriminated against or really excluded from participating just on the basis of pregnancy or having a child. Another scenario. And then the seventh one is LGBTQ plus students. So in addition to just protecting all students, Title IX also protects LGBTQ students and has some additional supportive measures. So same as any other student, the bullying and harassment it's going to interfere with, but if there is any sexual harassment or gender-oriented bullying, it protects against that. And with these supportive measures as well, having a equitable complaint process for these students and making sure that they are free from retaliation. All right. The eighth one is Title IX coordinators. So a part of Title IX is allocating resources and a position towards at least one person, one position whose role is really ensuring that they are following Title IX and developing the policies that protect the students and make sure that they're upholding the responsibilities that they have to meet Title IX. So what this could look like is implementing in-service programs towards employees, students, or really any key stakeholders that play a role in making sure that we have an equal opportunity for all. And the key role, like if you really had to take one thing away from what a Title IX coordinator is going to do, they look at receiving reports for gender discrimination or gender bias, and then overseeing the resolution process. So on top of making sure that, Title IX, all of that is being met, they also, if there is an instance of gender discrimination, they would be the go-to contact for taking that report and then going into action on launching that investigation and overseeing what goes forward from then. And finally, retaliation against reporters. So Title IX is going to protect students such as yourself if you were to report, because it prohibits anybody who retaliates against a reporter. So say that you noticed an instance of gender discrimination and you report it, you are protected. And even if you're advocating for the improved Title IX compliance strategies, you would be protected in that instance as well. I tacked on this important note that these provisions also cover anyone that is participating in the process. So say that it's your friend that goes out and they have a report of gender discrimination. If you are brought in by the Title IX coordinator to interview and answer some questions about the instance, you also are protected under Title IX as well. I wanted to include this slide in here just to put a bit of a face to the position. So I mentioned the Title IX coordinator that oversees the implementation of this. And one example is Leah. She's an outstanding human being, and she's actually our Title IX officer here at the University of Northern Iowa. And so, as I mentioned in previous slides, what she does is ensures that we're upholding the responsibilities that Title IX places on our institution. But in addition to that, oversees any reports that we might have and the follow-up investigation into that. And I included a brief blurb. I asked Leah, I was like, if there's one thing high school students need to know, and this is what she shared, that Title IX protects the fundamental right of every student to be treated respectfully and equitably in every aspect of their education. And as you look through the 9 categories, whether it's a LGBTQ plus student, a pregnant and parenting student, or a student that wants to get involved in sports or any activity, what Title IX does is it creates a space in which all have the equitable opportunity to participate and get the most out of their education. Here are some additional scenarios. I've included them all in that handout that Dr. Heisterkamp will give to you all. I highly encourage you to dive into these following the presentation, as it'll give you a chance to apply some of the concepts from this and help you become more prepared to identify some opportunities where Title IX may come into play in the future. And then last but not least, I've included a few resources. So those first 2 really have some tremendous information for high school students such as yourself, finding out how they really protect you and in what ways. And then finally, with resource number 3, I have linked to Title IX so you can learn more about the policy itself. That concludes the presentation of Know Your 9 and learning more about Title IX, the federal policy, and how it protects students such as yourself. I commend you all for the tremendous work that you're doing within your own schools and your own communities as mentors. And I encourage you just to not let the work stop here with this virtual summit, right? Take the words, take the knowledge that you're learning today and turn it into action. Go out and apply this knowledge and go out and be the change makers that your schools and communities need. Best of luck to you.